Today we discuss an issue that strikes at the core of democracy: press freedom and access to power. The Karnataka government has restricted journalists inside Vidhana Soudha. As per a directive from the Department of Personal and Administrative Reforms, media personnel can now take sound bites of the Chief Minister, Deputy Chief Minister, ministers, and officials only at a designated spot near the West Gate. Journalists have also been told not to follow ministers within the premises for reactions. Further, identity cards will be issued only to journalists recommended by the Department of Information and Public Relations. The government cites security reasons, but many journalists argue that this limits routine coverage, reduces spontaneous questioning, and creates a system of controlled access. Protests have already taken place within the premises. The opposition, including leaders like Ashoka, has called the move anti-democratic and accused the government of trying to control the narrative. This is not new. Similar restrictions were imposed earlier under H.D. Kumaraswamy and B.S. Yediyurappa, showing that media curbs have cut across party lines. So is this about security or about control? Are we seeing a pattern of shrinking media space? And what does this mean for the public's right to know? To discuss these important questions, we are joined by senior journalist and Karnataka Rajyotsava Award recipient Maya Sharma. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us again. And yet again, we talk about media freedom in the country. So the first thing that obviously I would like to ask you, and that's the main focus of this interview, is that as a senior journalist, you've been in Karnataka for over 25 years practicing this profession. And now that these media curbs has come up again, what do you think? Is it really for security reasons as the government claims? Or is this again another media curb in India, in Karnataka?
Well, as you said, I've spent many years in journalism here, and I think I've spent several days just running up and down corridors, chasing ministers and MLAs inside Vidhana Soudha, and it's difficult to imagine that not being allowed now. I think, honestly speaking, it's a bit of a mix. I think journalists in India, especially here in Bengaluru, have got used to the access. We are used to being able to go into Vidhana Soudha, to follow the minister, to talk to them. And here I must say also that Karnataka politicians are a little bit different from politicians elsewhere in India. They're usually a bit more accessible, which is probably why we chase after them. Because in other states like next door in Tamil Nadu, you can chase after a minister with a mic, but you're not going to get anything from them. Whereas here in Karnataka, sometimes you do. So firstly, it's going to be very difficult to make journalists accept this change. We have been used to access to the leaders in Vidhana Soudha. And the argument that it's about security, I don't think it's so much about security within Vidhana Soudha, because people are not just randomly allowed into the building. There are passes, there's security, you have to go through checks, you have to put your bags through through the scanner. It's not as if anyone can just wander in. So I doubt if it's so much about security as about convenience. I think that ministers are not very keen on having people stop them or stalk them, or a group of people stopping them in the corridors. Plus also, it may be that there are questions they don't want answered. And if they don't want to answer those questions, well, they just needn't go to the designated place where the reporters are supposed to wait for them to come. So security may be a cover story, but I doubt if that's really the issue. I think it's more the inconvenience of the ministers being impeded and also not wanting to answer questions which perhaps the media wants to ask them. So I think it's a mix of that, really. But I don't think it's something the journalists will be happy with at all.
So it's again like something the opposition as well as a lot of journalists in the state have pointed out, that it's a way to not respond to the question, not have to answer to the questions rather than just security, because as we all know, there are enough security checkpoints at Vidhana Soudha for journalists. Also, this is not a new thing in Karnataka as well. Across all the governments from any party, this keeps happening, that we have this one restriction coming up again and again for journalists in Vidhana Soudha. So why do such restrictions keep appearing? And also because we're very famous for gag orders here. So what does it really mean for Karnataka?
Well, you see, back in 2018 also, H.D. Kumaraswamy also tried to keep journalists out of Vidhana Soudha totally. He tried to kind of stop that, saying that they would not have access. again for pretty much the same reasons, that it was impeding the work of ministers. Now that did not last because journalists did not want that to happen. In a democracy, journalists have to have access to the seat of power. And in Karnataka, Vidhana Soudha is where the leaders are, where the political leaders are, where the parties are. So there was no way that could have lasted. It didn't last. That order was withdrawn. And the media did have access. There were various stages. For example, earlier on, we were all allowed in with our cameras and camera persons and tripods into the assembly hall itself. But it was felt sometimes that the big tripods were causing a problem, or causing impediment to people's movement within the assembly hall. So that was stopped, and a feed was provided from the assembly. Efforts are constantly made, because really whatever the party is, sometimes leaders don't want to answer certain questions of the media. And probably they would like to feel that Vidhana Soudha is a safe space for them. They can go quietly in, maybe by a different entrance, go to their chamber and just be left alone. I personally don't think this will last. Even this order won't last. The opposition is raising the issue, even though they may have done something similar themselves. The journalists themselves have been protesting as well. So I don't think this will last. But yes, it's happened time and again, and the opposition will always comment on the party in power when they do it, but probably may do the very same thing themselves when they have the chance to do so.
Also, when we talk about the opposition, the leader of opposition, R. Ashoka, said that this looks like emergency in Karnataka. And how do you view the opposition's reaction to it now, considering that in the past, both even Nikhil Kumaraswamy commented that this is anti-democratic, but again, like H.D. Kumaraswamy government did a very similar restriction, and even BJP has been doing it at the national level, and even when they were in power in Karnataka. So what do you view this as when opposition keeps commenting on this, but yet similar behavior is repeated when they come to power?
Yes, like I was saying earlier, it depends on who's in power. If the government in power is doing them, the opposition will claim it's kind of curbing press freedom and it's restricting media freedom and access like that. But Kumaraswamy, who's in the opposition now, himself did it when he was chief minister. The BJP at the center, as you pointed out, is not really totally accessible. The leadership is certainly not accessible, with Prime Minister Modi not really holding press conferences at all, let alone letting people kind of stop him with mics in front of them. Yes, security comes be very well a reason for top leaders. You should not be able to have instant access to leadership, because we have seen violence in our own country when it comes to top leadership. But to say that what one party is doing is wrong when they're in power, but then do the same thing yourself when you're in power, it is a hypocrisy. It is political hypocrisy. And certainly it's just the opposition opposing what the centre does, although what the government in power does, although they may very well do the very same thing when they're in power. Leaders in power don't necessarily like pesky journalists asking them questions which are difficult to answer. So they may well do it when they're in power. But when they're in the opposition, they feel they have the right to kind of say, this is not on, this is like the emergency, this is curbing press freedom. So really that's what's happening.
So everybody is in a way trying to curb the freedom when they are in power, but when they're not in power, everybody talks about press freedom and avoids answering the harder questions that journalists might pose. But again, what does it really mean for the citizens? And also tell us from your experience, you have been here for a very long time, and at least as far as we know, before 2014, there was a very evident parliamentary beat in journalism, where actually journalists had access to the media gallery in the legislature, and it was more active as compared to post 2014 and post COVID majorly. What does it really mean for the citizens when journalists have access to these spaces? What difference does it make in a democracy for regular citizens?
It's hugely important that journalists have access to leadership, be able to talk to them, be able to approach them, because it's not as if the ordinary citizen can really do so. The public doesn't have access. They can't wander into Vidhana Soudha just like that. There are security checks. They have to have an appointment. There has to be a reason they're going in. Some visitors allowed in the gallery when the assembly is on, but there are, or there should be, strict security checks for this. It's not as if that the public can just walk up to a leader and talk to them. which is why it's so important that journalists, why it's so important that the media can access them, because they are the eyes and ears and the voice of the people. At least they should be in a democracy. I'm not saying that the media is doing this job fully at this point in the country, and it's very often that the media is not asking the questions it should be asking. But the media should have access. They should be able to question the leadership. They should be able to approach people in the corridors of power. The responsibility of the media, on one hand, also is to not misbehave, not push and shove and group and block things. There also has to be a certain civil behavior from the journalists also. They can't just walk up to people and surround them and be aggressive. They should be able to have access and ask questions. And as you said, over the many years when I was working, I think from 95 onwards, we could walk up to leadership. We could, I think, starting with former Prime Minister Deve Gowda when he was Chief Minister of Karnataka, we could just walk up to them and ask questions. But there were differences then. There were far fewer television channels. So at the most, there may be one or two or three mics, three channels which were waiting to answer. Now it's a multiplication of television channels, a multiplication of mics and online channels, online networks. There is so many journalists there that it can indeed cause a certain impediment to people's movement in Vidhana Soudha. So that has to be carefully thought out. But for a blanket ban to say that the media must be waiting in one position and that's the only place they can talk to leadership, that is not on.
Also, the other restriction that should a government department like DIPR decide which journalist can enter Vidhana Soudha, which journalists have access to such important public people?
It becomes very dangerous when a wing of the government can decide who has access and who doesn't. We've seen at the center also, when it comes to interviews with Prime Minister Modi, only very certain journalists are allowed access. Certain people are allowed to ask him questions. And there are reports of the questions being cleared, of things like that, of the Prime Minister's office being in charge of what the recording is like. Now that cannot happen. It cannot be that a wing of the government in power, whether at the state or at the center, decides, yes, this person can come in, this person cannot come in. Because very obviously then the person in power will not want a journalist who is likely to ask difficult questions, who's likely to ask the tough questions. And they're likely to give time to somebody who will, follow the party line, whether at the center or at the state, to ask friendly questions. Or even if they're asking harder questions, they're asking harder questions in a way that allows the person to explain things away, to talk about things. So no, there should not be a government department deciding who has access and who doesn't. If a journalist is a serious journalist and is doing their job properly, they should be able to have access, the equal access for all media houses, for all journalists, to the people in power.
Also, what does it mean for these smaller independent journalists or news channels, YouTube channels, where the access is very limited, and when such restrictions even come to it, like what does it really mean for them?
It is very difficult because sometimes digital journalists do not have the same access. They do not get the same identification cards, the same accreditation, the same PIB access as the larger mainstream channels, the larger media houses. And this again is dangerous because, especially the way the media is in India today, it is often these smaller groups, the smaller networks, the online media, the news portals, which are actually asking the tougher questions, which are taking on the administration, taking on the government, and asking the more difficult questions. So if they are not given access, if they're not given accreditation, and they are not allowed to actually approach the people in power and ask them questions, it's very dangerous for democracy then, because in a democracy, it's a question about accountability, information being shared with the people. And anything that blocks that, anything that curbs that, is not a good thing. So the smaller media houses, the online portals, which are, like I said, asking the tougher questions, they should have equal access in an ideal world and in a true democracy. They should have that access.
And at the same time, how do you look at the protests that took place in the Vidhana Soudha in front of Mahatma Gandhi statue over these restrictions where journalists were dressed up in black and had black masks? How do you also view the resistance from the journalists this time?
Well, I think it's very good that journalists are united in a cause to kind of have access. It's very good that they feel that it's very important that they should be allowed to access people and should have access to Vidhan Soudha. It is important that they came together and were able to express this. But it should also be the case in any state where there are curbs in freedom. It should be equally important at the center when there is access. The party in power which is making the decision to curb this access, that should not matter. Whether it's the Congress, the BJP, the JDS, or any other regional party or any other party at the national level, if they're trying to curb media freedom, then the unity of journalists and the protest by journalists should be the same. It should not matter who is coming out to that decision, which party is imposing those curbs. That would be really wonderful if journalists can feel that they should not be silenced, they should not be curbed, whichever party is putting those restrictions in place. That would be a good thing. So if journalists are able to speak up for themselves, regardless of which party they're opposing, then I think that's a good thing.
And also, what do you think is the solution for the curbs that take place for media in India? Like, this is a very recurrent thing that keeps happening not only in Bangalore but across India at national level as well. And it sounds like journalists are trying to work in an atmosphere where it's restricted. And a lot of time, like you mentioned, that it's the smaller independent news portals that are asking the questions rather than the national media, which has more access to the public. What could be a solution for these things? Because we keep protesting once in a while in the states at national level whenever it happens, but still the restrictions are increasing day by day. So what could be a hopeful solution for that?
Yes, that's very, very hard. It's a very hard question because, as you know, our ranking in the Press Freedom Index is not as good as it should be for the world's largest democracy. It's not as good as it should be. It's become almost systemic now that there is such a close watch kept on journalists and what they're reporting and what they're saying and writing and speaking about. It's a kind of carrot and stick approach, that there is a stick applied to people who are critical of authority. They are maybe hounded with cases. They may be put in jail. Some have been killed. Maybe not directly at the command of the authorities, but with almost no punishment given to those who have harmed journalists. That is the case on one hand, the stick. The carrot approach is that media houses which actually fall in line, which don't ask the difficult questions, which don't oppose the administration, they're rewarded with advertising, they're rewarded with conclaves, they're rewarded with access to the powers that be. So it's a very difficult question to answer now. Theoretically, the media has to decide that they will not be gagged, that they will ask the questions, that they will stand for truth, that they will be the voice of the people. In reality, that's not always happening, and it's largely in the hands of the media. It's also in the hands of the people who need to choose which media house they trust, which media house they follow. But it's also, of course, in the hands of the government at the state level, at the central level, to make sure that they allow the press to function freely. And that's something which is easily said, but it's not something which is easily done. Because, as I said, the authorities don't necessarily want people to question them. So they're quite happy with curbs. They're quite happy with a subdued and obedient media.
And also, if this order is not withdrawn, how should or how will the journalist adapt to this while also wanting to ask the tough questions?
Well, they have been given a certain place in Vidhan Soudha where they can stand and wait for the ministers, wait for the people to come. Otherwise, I think it's a question of trying to gain access to them through the proper channels, through their media people, through the press secretaries, to try and access them that way. Plus, also the ministers and the MLAs and the politicians and the leaders are not always in Vidhan Soudha. They are elsewhere as well, So you can try and approach them elsewhere. You can try and, I mean, I don't, you can try and get through to them elsewhere. It need not be only in Vidhana Soudha. This is one place where there is an easier access to ministers because they're there. You know they're there. You know when they're coming. And you know where they'll be. You know where their offices. So this is easier access, but it's not the only point of access. But I somehow feel this order may not last for very long.
As it has happened in the past year in Karnataka at least. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and for your valuable input on regarding this and regarding the press freedom in India. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.